Okay, guys, so we finally got our 2021 Super Sentai series, which also happens to be the 45th anniversary series, Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger. And I have no idea how I feel about it. Hello, guys. My name is Maria Park, and this is Approach to Nerd. In this episode, we are reviewing episode 1 of the brand new Super Sentai for 2021, Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger. Um, so a really quick premise of this series is that apparently all of the Sentai that we've known and loved have all been basically their entire worlds have been taken hostage inside of a little machine. And we see images of Sentais from the past on these little coins. They're like something you play in a slot machine at a casino, which I think in this series they refer to as Sentai gears. And right now we're on, I guess, the very last stop, the very last planet standing that right now does not have a Super Sentai team. So why the villains didn't start with this planet to begin with is anybody's guess. So without doing a huge recap, let's just talk about some stuff. So the very first character we meet is Kaito. Kaito Gashakita. And he is a very hyperactive and adrenaline junkie type person who wants to be the first at something. He wants to be the first to be able to accomplish something that no one's ever accomplished. So when we see him, he's trying to convince these two security guards to allow him to be the first person to bungee jump off of this skyscraper, basically. And they're like, what? Which, I mean, I guess I'm impressed that he felt the need to be honest about it. I mean, he could have just been like, I'm just carrying this rope, because I got to go to work after this or whatever, made some kind of crappy excuse up. But no, he told that he was about to jump off the side of the tower, probably to impending death. So I did feel a little called out, though, when the security guards were like, oh, you're a YouTuber. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah, don't do that. But yeah, so Kaito is pretty much he is the character that you normally see in every other Sentai, because Red Rangers are not really Red Rangers in this case, but like the leaders of teams always come in 3 flavors: emo, hyperactive, or badass, like Captain Marvelous and Gokaiger. This one is hyperactive. He is the one that has the willpower and the force, or as he likes to say, fast force or whatever, to just do everything to save the world and do everything in fast, do it quickly and never give up. So, we're used to this. So I have no hate on that at all, because that's just what his character is. I do love the fact that they are dressing like their colors, but I guess where the robots are concerned on the team, they don't really seem to have a choice because that is their colors. But he has on the combination, the whites, the blues, the reds of his actual Zenkaiger suit, which is based off of, I read, because I had to research this, originally of Go Ranger. But what's interesting to me is that he reminds me, and this could just be me, but one of my favorite Kamen Rider series is Kamen Rider Farce. And I'm just waiting for Kaito at some point, to just say Space Jaw. Just like, I don't know what it is, but that's what that suit and he reminds me of. Not really per se the human characters, but of the actual suit hyperness. I don't know. I just really felt like that's what he reminded me of in suit. But anyway, so this world is basically the last world standing. Like, again, I don't know why the villains did not just decide, to take out the weakest link first, because that's normally traditionally what they do. But these villains, who are Kikunoids, are basically robots from a parallel world that are the ones taking over all of these worlds. They're headed by this guy named Great King Bokowas. And, we get to see him because it kind of looks like his body is like stuck in the wall of his base. So I was really impressed with that, because normally you don't see the big boss, at least episodes 3 or 4. And his dynasty is called the Kikatopia Dynasty Tojitendo. And so, yeah, he's a big main antagonist. But all Kikunoids are not created equal. Therefore, some are seen as peasants and some are seen as, higher rank. And I don't know how they established this within their group, but in the series, we see a few of the Kikunoids, and some are working regular jobs and some are acting, basically getting along with humans. So it doesn't really start to go Terminator until, Bokuwasa's like, okay, it was time to take over Earth. So again, I don't know why they waited as long as they did, but again, I'm just throwing that out there. So they decide that it's a good idea to start attacking humans, Terminator style, because, why not? Now, side note, we don't really see all of the Rangers. Like we do see, I want to say we see Majin. She's doing an interview, and I think they ask her, what she thinks about Earth. Was she planning on becoming like, or whatever their version of Earth is? Was she planning on becoming a citizen? And she's like, I don't even know how I got here. Basically, I was on my world, and then bam, I was here. So that's interesting. And I noticed, and I had to look this up because when I saw them, I saw a picture of their forms originally, and I saw the henshin of this episode. I started noticing a lot of them look like they're robots from certain series. Like Majin, even her name, it's Maji Ranger. And boy, again, do I know my Maji Ranger, because I collect memorabilia. I have my Maji phone. I have my trains from Tokaiger. I have a freaking Hurricane Blue jacket. I have another morph where I have to do a freaking, well, I'll say henshin device that I have to do a freaking unboxing over there on, because I collect everything that I love. Anime, cartoon, Super Sentai, Garo, Tokusatsu, Kamen Rider, whatever. So I knew looking at her. Plus, if you look at Majin just up close, tell me she does not look like my girl Hoka, which you see my Hoka and Olala in the background and my Umiko over there. She looks like Hoka's fairy form before they form Maji King, which is interesting. I really haven't paid attention to her henshin form, but more than likely it'll probably look like Maji King. But she looks like the fairy version that Hoka would turn into right before they all combine. So I thought that was really interesting. And I've read that the Yellow Ranger, I think his name is going to be Gaon, is going to be based off of Gao King, which is cool. And then we have the Blue Ranger's name is Vroon. And I don't really know who he is based off of, but if I had to guess, I'd say he was a combination of Turbo Ranger, Car Ranger, Go Ranger, and Bokanger, all mixed into one. So all of the Car series, because that's what he looks like. But he kind of reminds me of the Blue Ranger and Tokanger with the glasses on, how he keeps pushing his glasses in. That's something that I'm used to, seeing. So, it is what it is. And then the Red Ranger, Jiran, who we do meet in this episode, he's based off of Zoo Ranger's robot, which is Shinkangatai Daizuzan. So I love that fact that if we're going by American standards, it looks like the Zenkaiger Ranger is fighting with all of the Megazords from various series, all shrunken down to his level. Not a bad thing, just something to get used to. It's strange. It's just a little strange. Or as I talked to my friend Blur Without Veer, he was basically saying it's like he's playing around with GoBots. It is what it is. So the main character, again, Kaito, his parents were scientists and they were working on a lot of stuff, apparently behind not only his back, but his grandmother, who is his father's mother, I believe, behind her back. She runs a candy store. And in this episode, we find out that they have made this like elaborate base underneath the candy store. I don't know how she didn't hear this work going on, because even if you're being super sneaky, when you build stuff, you make noise. I have no idea how they were able to get around her not hearing it. And that's been some really good soundproofing, and I kind of need that for my room right now because mine's really reflective, so please give me notes. But it's interesting. It's very interesting. And it just made me have a lot of questions, because what made me have questions first off was why, number one, I know they're scientists and they were curious about parallel worlds. I get that. But why did they, once they discovered all these different Earths, why did they decide that they needed to have Super Sentai powers created based off of all of these Earths? Like, did they know that, all of this was going to happen with the Kikunoids? They were going to come over and try and take over Terminator style. So they were like, this is literally our last chance of saving our world. We need to create this Gartlinger gun so we can train our child, who at this point had to be like 8 or 9, maybe a little older, to grow up and fight these things. I mean, because they made 5 guns and they had 1 child. Like, I don't think they meant for the parents, the son, and the grandma to be in on it. But considering how Kaito tried to get his grandmother to get a gun, and the whole elaborate thing he had in his head of her holding it and fighting was elaborate. That was funny. I do love her reaction to that, by the way, when she's like, I'm 60 years old, not today. That was hysterical. But yeah, it makes me wonder what the motivation behind them making those weapons and these powers, these Sentai gears. What was it? How did they know about the Sentai gears? How did they get the powers into the Sentai gears if they were captured? It's just, I have questions. And then, of course, they disappeared. I know we'll learn more later. This is only episode 1. So I'm not hating on this series. I'm not trying to be a downer. These are questions I initially had when I watched the episode. All right. So back to the Red Ranger, who is Juan. He's very, very cool. Juan is like, he's like not really the grandfather, but like the father type figure. He's very relaxed. He's calm. He's sociable. It's like you could see him playing chess in the park, even though you can't really discern his age from how he looks because he's a robot. But, and plus he's wearing these white shorts that kind of look like shorts that also kind of remind me of like a big diaper, or it depends. I know that sounds weird, but I'm just going to throw it out there. It's like they're trying to make him look geriatric. I don't know. But he's such a nice character personality wise. And again, he is based off of, Zoolangers. They're basically their robot, a Zoo Ranger, sorry, they're a robot. So, he's a dinosaur. I think they're playing on age because of the age of the dinosaur and all that. That's really interesting. If you really look deeply into that, it's kind of cool. But, he like shows up with food. They'll go hang out with these kids in the park. I guess he wanted to make friends, which is cool. And the scene what made me laugh about the scene is not that the kids were like, oh, well, that's awesome. We get to hang out with you. We've never actually done that. We've never hung out with a Kikoroy before, blah, 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 blah. It was actually what made me laugh was how much the kids that were with him had no rhythm when they were dancing. I was like, what are they dancing to? Are they not actually hearing this music? But I digress. So, they're cooking it up, living their best lives. And of course, they start getting attacked. And, I guess because, he is one of the Kikinoids, the other Kikinoid was like, hey, destroy these humans. I don't know why they don't know who's on the bad side of their own force, but, whatever. So Juran's like, no, he picks up a rock, but then he looks at the humans and they like freak out. And I don't know why. I don't know what transpired in that scene because it looked like he was defending them with the rock because he was pointing it at the bad guy. But the humans were like, ah, and he's like, Juran's like, oh, you see me as one of them. It happens again, too, in this episode. There's a young boy that gets attacked. And like right when the Kikino is about to hit him with like this stick thing, Kaito shows up and shoots it with the gun that they got, and I'll get to that in a second. But it's just interesting because Juran's like freaking out. He's like, oh, you see me as a bad guy. And then it wasn't until Kaito was like, oh, no, you're not like them, that the little boy was like, arigato. And I'm like, the man, like literally, the robot literally laid on you to stop you from being hit. And it took this human guy to tell you it was okay to say thanks and realize that you got saved. So like they kind of, I don't know. It's stuff like that. Sometimes it's just like, okay, it's a little weird. But anyway, so for Kaito to get informed on what's going on, we have his childhood best friend, which happens to be named Setchan, which happens to be a very cute robotic bird. And kind of like Navi, only a lot more colorful. And it becomes alive when he starts, talking about going full force. He's basically doing this like inspirational, Kaito's doing this inspirational speech, and it awakens Setchan. And he's like, oh, I'm charged up. He always refers to things and says tune at the end, which is interesting. I will probably be owning this doll or figure at some point because I try to get them all. But so they end up, him and his grandmother staring. And then, of course, that's when we learn about the underground base. The bird just like literally opens the floor and they fall down. And I kept thinking that little pad, should not have protected them, especially grandma. She should have broken some bones, but I suspend my disbelief once again. Then, of course, Senchan's giving them like a basis, like breakdown of how the Super Sentai worlds were, captured, blah, 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 how your parents designed this lab and, they designed the Gertlingers for you to be able to fight, the rogue Kikinoids. And so, of course, Kaito does the whole thing I said where he like tries to get his grandmother to fight. He takes his off the wall, and of course he takes the red, Sentai gear off the wall with the gun. And then the grandmother's like, that's not happening. So then he goes off to fight. So that's how he got the gun in the first place. So I really love the banter when he first meets Jiran, and he's like, he sees him saving the boy and he's like, I want you to fight. And Jiran's like, you don't even know me. I could be like one of them. He's like, nah, you aren't like none of them, and he gives him the gun and they start talking. And while they're talking and they're like getting to know each other, Jiran just like up and shoots a Kikinoid like randomly in the corner. It was funny. And he's like, yeah, these weapons will work. And then Kaito's like, oh, wait a minute, there's something else we could do. And so he's like, takes the coin and gives it to him. And he's talking about how they can actually use these to power up or whatever, which means henshin. And I love how the bad guys are like this. Like, what's happening? I love how they're polite. I have said this for years. In Super Sentai and Power Ranger alone, they are a lot more aggressive in Super Sentai because they don't have as many censorship for children, TV show laws that we have. But it always amazes me how polite some of the villains are. Like, they will wait for you to henshin. They will wait for you to do your speech. They will wait for you to pose. In the Power Rangers, they not only do that, they schedule fighting you between certain hours of the day. So, I mean, if you're in school full time, you got a job, you got to support your family. That's all good. We're not going to attack you till you're off. We'll make sure that you make your money. We'll make sure that you can pass that exam. You need to stay up for tutoring. We're not going to hit you. We'll wait till 5. I always love that these villains are so respectful of giving people the space they need when they should be killing them. But, I digress. So they finally, put the coins in, and they somehow, I don't know how, they somehow know how to spin these to get them to work. I'm like... Now, I will say the connection to Dino Fury, with Dino Fury trying to learn their morphing call, the whole choreography for that kind of was the same in Zenkaiger, but only in terms of him remembering that he actually had these Sentai gears. But once they got the Sentai gears, they instantly knew what to do. And I never know why. Just like, I don't know why he didn't randomly grab the pink one. He could have randomly grabbed any of them and given them to Jiran and be like, you are now the Pink Ranger. You know what I mean? But he's red, so he has to have the red gear. Like, it would be interesting. Let's just change it up a little bit. And where the Yellow Ranger actually is the Red Ranger. It would have been interesting. But again, we know that we got to keep it. A lot of children watch the shows. We got to keep it color coded. So they know what they know. But so they do transform. And then this is the part that gets acid trippy for me. So again, I bring up Gokaiger. I love the idea of Ranger keys. I love the idea that these teams sacrifice their powers and were ready to give up their lives to save the earth or the world. What's interesting to me is that 2 things. First of all, it sounds like all the Rangers are on different Earths, because they made it seem like we're in a multiverse situation, and all of the Earths with all of the Super Sentai people were all the teams were taken, which I always remember going back to Gokaiger, they were all on the same planet and they were all in Japan. So that's interesting. So I have questions about, that per se, but they had to do something different for this series. And so instead of having them have Ranger keys or whatever, well, they basically were able to use the Sentai gears to call upon different teams. And they do it based on the years. Whereas when Zenkaiger first, henshins, you see it number 45, which makes sense because he is the 45th Sentai. So that makes complete sense. And then you just start seeing across the board, whenever they start using like different powers, you start seeing numbers. So we see Zuanger, he puts it in and it shows 40. And then you see the team, and then you see the Red Ranger actually go into him. I'm assuming all of them do, but really it looks like more like the Zua Red went into him. And then he's able to get wings in the eagle mode and fly around and attack, which is cool. I do like that. Again, when Jiran wants to do it, which by the way, him doing it, putting the gear in, and it plays this song, like music. They start playing music kind of like in a, well, there's a lot of different Sentai that start playing music and people dance to, but like a Kyoto Ranger, definitely the dancing, spinning, shooting up the guns. it kind of reminded me of that, but he was like really getting into it. Like Jadon was jamming, but then he calls on the ninja, and then you see 39 because they are the 39th Sentai team. So I do like how they're incorporating not only the powers, but the years based on the gear. So it actually shows the year. And it's like, I'm suspending my disbelief because do the Super Sentai people actually know they're the 39 team? I mean, I think they do because when the Gokaiger had their season, they knew what ranking they were. So it's really interesting though. I wonder how they start, like who initially started keeping track and who initially started counting. See how my mind works. It just, when you do so many reviews, guys, and you do so many theory videos, you just have so many questions. And even though I've watched Sentai for, let's see, I'm in my 40s, so 35 years, I still have questions. I just do. I can't help it because it is what it is. So moving past it though, I do like how they've handled them using the Sentai powers through these Sentai gears. And they're not just changing into them, they're just taking it on. Just like I love the fact when the other Rangers outside of Zenkaiger transform, they do look like a different form of, the robot. Like when Majin transforms, she's probably going to look like Maji King. When the Yellow Ranger Gon transforms, more than likely he will look like Gal King. I don't know who Vroon's going to look like. Again, he is kind of like a combination of all of the, car-based Sentais. So it could really go either way. He could be Turbo's robot. He could be any of them, but yeah, it's a really cool concept. It is a very, very cool concept. Again, the series itself as a whole, where they're trying to go, I guess is not bad. I don't know what it is. It's not like when I watched the first episode recently, I know I'm behind, of Kamen Rider Saber. Now, when I watch Kamen Rider Saber, it's book themed. They have all these cool, books they can use with different powers. It's just, there's a mystery to it. Who was the girl going through the portal, that he couldn't hold on to. I mean, all of that for me is like, I loved it. I don't know, besides his parents, being gone and Kaito's show, what the mystery is. I mean, I guess one could say, how are they going to get all the Sentai, teams back and have their Earths restored? Can they do that? Why were all the different, Rangers brought to this Earth? Because as Majin said, she just showed up. So, and I think the Blue Ranger, if I read the spoilers correctly, because there was a spoiler about him, he's still actually working for, our antagonist. So I think he's like cleaning floors or something. I don't know what he's doing. He's still working with them. So he's never actually been to this Earth. So something has to bring him there. So I'm assuming that is going to be our next mystery, even though I think episode 2 is going to be more of the Yellow Ranger story. But Boko Was is the employer right now for Vroom. So there's a lot of mystery there, but even then I'm kind of like, even seeing the mushrooms and stuff, I'm just kind of like, meh, but I am going to give it a chance again. And more than likely, like every Sentai series, I'm going to watch the whole thing. It's just, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it. It's kind of like watching Power Rangers Megaforce for me. I don't like Megaforce. I really don't love Super Megaforce because I love Gokaiger. And I had a big problem with Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. So I mean, when you put it against Bokanger, apples to apples, it sucks. It just was not really well made. But again, that is just my opinion. I'm going to give it to episode 3 review wise. If I like it past then, I'll probably will keep reviewing it. If not, then maybe a summary of the whole season. But I want to know what you guys think. So please leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you would like to sign up for jury duty, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to know who's next in the ballot, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.